Right, I'm going to start off by looking at the back of here, and what I normally do is put my my vocals through these first two, then I put a drum through here, and then whatever else you want through here. But I usually put my guitar through this one here. I mean, just say guitar there, and if you turn that on there when it's powered up, there's a switch here, it says line or guitar, and what it is, there's a power switch here, and once that's off, it won't power this, so that'll be clean then for the guitar. And if I turn it on, is it still on? No, you'll see that light come on. Come on. There. And then when it's off, it goes off. And it's for this here. And it's off now. And then that'll light up then, and that powers them all. I think it's like if you need microphone with powers, there's both of them. I never use them, to be fair, and as long as you're not using them, you can put in whatever you want in these, like, you know, your guitar or vocal, whatever. But if you do use these, then obviously when you put it onto guitar, then there's nothing coming through that, then it's just cleaner. But it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever, that there. But I put my guitar in there, vocals in that one, drum in that one, and keyboard or whatever else I'm using in these really. And then the guitar one will obviously come through this one, and the vocals would be these two, and the drums would be on that one. I never use this. I've never used the effect loop, and the monitor out, that's what I put my speakers to when I use the Yamaha speakers. And it's really important you put this on first before you turn your speakers on, or else you can damage your speakers. There's a little, is it USB there? I've never used that. And this is the SD card here, and it's I do try and get the larger cards, because there's a little number on there. Is that 90? Is it 95 MB or something? I go for, you know, the higher one, because if you don't, what can happen once you start putting a few tracks down, it just crashes. The card can't take it. So the bigger that number there, this is a 32 gig. That's, you know, it's plenty enough to do a fair few tracks. I mean, you know, and I'll just keep buying a new one after I've done a few tracks, to be fair. But you know, and you have to, if you buy these, and you have to format them, which I'll show you how to format them as well. And they just go into the little slot there. Yeah, and just click in. Obviously that's your power supply, and then your on and off switch. And you don't just click it on, you have to push it, hold it, and it'll come on. And the same for turning it off, push it and hold it, and it'll turn it off. Okay, now so I've powered it up, and I do find it really handy to put in a bit of tape here, because it might seem really obvious at first, but sometimes I can spend weeks on a piece of music. And let me just bring that microphone a bit closer. I do spend weeks on a piece of music, and if you put a little bit of I don't know, keyboard in or something like that, if you get a little bit adventurous, you know, if you start mixing it down and thinking, oh, that doesn't sound quite enough, you're not going to remember which that little bit was on once all these are sort of up and everywhere, you know. And then once you start messing with one and think, oh no, that, and then you mess all your sound up. So it is really handy to put this down. I always put drums in this one, vocals in these two, and then start with the guitar. That's what I usually start with, depending on what music I'm playing. And you know, I'll just put these four up, and then I personally just jam the song through, and then it just gives me a bass. So then I'll maybe end up with the drums and maybe the rhythm on, and I always scrap the vocals and start again on them. But I'll probably end up with the drum beat, and once I've got the drum beat, I can always redo the rhythm and then work from there. Right, to pick the track to record, so this one's my drum, and as I said, I would use this third one along on the top for my drums, which would be this for your power. Now what you need to do is get it so this recognises the third one as your drums. Now if you press this top button here, right, and you've got that there lit up, and you can also see now at the moment this one is lit up, which is actually the guitar one, right, and it's lit up for guitar as well, okay, because we've put the switch at the back for guitar, so you know this is your guitar track. Well, we don't want that one, we want our drums, which is the third one along. Now if you press this now, this light's now lit up, which is saying this is your source now, which is our drum track, and this light is lit up, which means this is now your drum track. Now we come onto this one, press that. Now you want this one now to be your vocals. Now I use these two for my vocals, right? And because it's a stereo, you've got one coming in here and one coming in there. Now I've usually got an effect coming in there, and it's a bit more straighter there on this one. Don't turn them on. That's if you need power to your your microphones need power. Put them on. It gives a fan. Do not have them on unless you know, and then do not use other things on any of them ones between there, and there. So all of them. So I never use it. Anyway, right. So now we want the vocal. So we've got the first one here, and we've got a second one here. So the first one now, we've lit up this, because this is the one we want to select this track as our first vocal, and then we press this as being the source. Now this light's lit up, so that means this here, this vocal, is for this track, and then we push into this one, right? And now we want that one. Right, so now that track's lit, which means this one now is coming to here. If we go to this one, it'll come back into that track, and if we go to this one, it'll go to the drums. And now we want to do the guitar one. So bring the guitar up, I press the guitar track, and I go to the source, and now this one is doing my guitar. So that's your guitar, that's one vocal, that's two vocal, and that's my drum. And now I would normally start playing that at this point, and because I always do that, I mean, you know, I know them. I've been to put this up on neat for this demonstration, so you know. But to start off, whatever you decide to put, if you decide to put your guitar in here and drum here and then vocals here, however you want to lay it out, I would genuinely suggest trying this. I mean, it depends how many different things you want to put in. Right, so then I would record that track on there. Now, if you make a mistake and you think, I want to delete track 2, well, I say track 1 because it was the drums, right? Because that's obviously the vocals are on 2 tracks. So if you want to delete your drum track, if we come over to here and you've got track edit, and if you press track edit, you've got to go to here. So this is our track, and when you press track edit, it will come up with a little menu here of different things that you can do, and you've got a wheel here, and that wheel you can move up and down through here, and it gives you lots of options. So a lot of this, I mean, I'm not going to go through everything, but obviously if you read through, a lot of them are self-explanatory. But clean out means clean out the track, which means get rid of everything you've just done. So if the drums were no good and you think, no, it's completely wrong, and I want to clean it out, right? And then if you press this button here, yeah, and then it will say source track. Now, to make sure, if you press track 1, yeah, probably nothing will come up because there's nothing on the track, but then 1 will come up, and do you want to delete it? Yes. And you go for the buttons directly underneath that, yes, and now that track would be cleaned out, and that drum line would be gone. So that's really handy. Now the other thing is that I find really handy with this, because what happens sometimes is when I'm recording, I record something and I forget to turn the record off the track that I was using. Right, it might get a bit, but I'll try. So there's an undo button here, and I find this one really, really useful. So if you do by mistake, you can only use it once. So like on the last thing you've recorded, if you press undo, that light will come up and it will restore what you've last done, and then you can undo the record and, you know, start again and actually record on the track you wanted to do. That's just if you happen to record on your guitar track that you've just done, and it should have been, you know, the next track along, you know, it should have been this one, you know, the next one along, yeah, and you just did it wrong. So that one's really, really useful, yeah. The mute, you can see the lights coming on and off here. Some of these don't respond that quickly, but that's just if you want to mute that track, just press it. So if you want to mute the drums, just press that, and that'll mute that track. But when you take the mute off to record, you need to press this. Now when it's flashing red, that means that track's ready to record. Yeah. So when you go to record, you just press this button here and it will record on that track for however long you want to record. This one here is like a master volume, and that one there, so it's a bit, for me, I don't know why, but it's just that, you know, you put the two up and then whatever it is there really, so it's like two master volumes really, because I never use this part, and I don't mix down on here. You can edit it. It's just, I tried it when I first got it, but I don't bother because I put it onto my computer from here, and once it's gone onto my computer I edit it all on there. It's just the screen's too small, it's just far too, I find it far too complicated to do that with it. I really need to put a piece of music in to work out these. Now, to load a song, if you press the menu button, you come to your options here. So you've got song, audio information, you've got a tuner there, USB, which let's say I don't use that on the back, you've got your format, and I never use that either, but the format's really important, because when you get your SD card, put it in there, press your format and it'll say there, and then it says do you want a format or a quick format. I always do full format on the discs, and you need to do that before they'll work, but you probably get one with the Tascam anyway, but it probably won't be that big and it won't do that much on it anyway, so it's just better to go for a bigger disc or SD card. Yeah, so press this, go back to main thing. There is effects in here, but I have messed with them when I first had it, but again, I've got that many, I put the effects on, and then rather than using the effects in the system, I don't bother with that. Dynamics, again, it's more effects, I don't use that. Now this one I do use this mixer, and this mixer one, for each individual track, as you come along here, right, you can do each one on its own, and as you come along that will change, you know, there, see, and you can adjust it, and it is a little bit self-explanatory. These here, I find these ones really useful. Personally, these don't seem to make, I mean the pan, obviously, if you know, you can pan it right and left and things like that. These ones I never really use. The phase, that makes a difference, and again it's like turning the wheel, and that'll change that. And if you click down, you can space through different things here, and there, and it's like an effect pedal really to a degree, but I do find this one quite useful. And just flicking through it, and you can come along and it will flick through the bottom half, but the top half of the screen is just used on these, and these are really good. So if you put your vocal in and you've pressed your vocal track over here, so now you're adjusting that, yeah, so now whatever you do in here now will affect that vocal track. And if you just move that up and down and around, so once I've got a track I do like, I do have a go with it in here before I put it onto my computer, to be fair, to try and get as nice as I can. And then obviously once I've put it into my computer, then I have another mess with it, so it doesn't sound, you know, so it sounds the way I want it to sound. That's the point, isn't it? And you can turn this all on and off. At the moment it's off, and then on, and then all of a sudden the way it's lit up, yeah, and then it will affect, otherwise it's just however it's really gone into the desk really. But this is a neat little tool, it will make quite a big difference. It's more your bass and things like that, and treble, it really works. And let's say that there's a few little bits in there that I find really useful. I have messed with other things, and like I said, the effects in here and that, it's too much messing around, and you move, it just, for me, it didn't work within the system. It was too much messing about. It was easier for me just to use the effect pedal I wanted into the system straight away. So that, I would say no. And like I say, here you've got your tuner, and again you're just flicking around and go to your tuner, you press yes, I'd like my tuner, and then you just tune your guitar. Yeah, come back, no, back to this main menu, and then you come to your songs. So when you have your SD card, it'll just have a basic track, and you it'll just be like that, song 001, right? So, but you can rename it or do whatever you want. So on this I put like a Poison Melody, you know, and there's Old Lang Syne on this one that I did over Christmas. And again, you flick up and down with this to pick whichever track you want to go to. And when you do, you just press that one, and you've got options for deleting it, loading it. So, you know, I'm clearly not going to delete it, but if we went to load, press load, and it will say save. Yeah, so, and then so press that one because it was there. And now if you go to home, you shall see there it says all that there on the title. So now that track is on the desk, and however it was at the time, I've usually mixed down the masters to this here. And then you can bounce it from on here. So what you can do is record, you've got your drums, vocals, guitar, and then what you can do, you can bounce it onto one of these stereo tracks. But what I've been doing now is mixing each individual track and then put it onto my computer, mix it on my computer, and then send it back, load it on here individually. You get a much, you lose far less. I found by doing it this way, you lose a lot of detail. It just can't cope with, because sometimes I fill all these up as well. It's just too much, and it just can't cope with my ideas, to be fair. So maybe not too bad with a couple, but it's just a much cleaner sound to take it off individually, do your drums individually, your vocals individually, your guitar, your keyboards, whatever you're going to do, stick it all on your computer individually. That's what I do. And then when I've got to that idea, I bring it back into one of these stereo tracks, I record it back into here, and it's not that hard to do. But then you do end up with a much better sound, and then I start again, because then I've got what I've done up to here, you know, and I've recorded it back in, and then sometimes I'll clear the whole thing again and think, right, I'll start off with another bit of this, another bit, and start adding on again. So in the end, some of my tracks can have an awful lot of layers, a lot more work in it than it actually looks when you get the finished result. Now, mark in and mark out, these are really handy. This is really handy, and jump back on repeat. I never use rehearse, really. I don't do that. Auto, I never use that. But these ones I do use. Now on the track at the top here, you can see some little lines, and them little red lines there represent in and out, and that means this track, because I've set it here in and out, if I press repeat, it will loop around that tiny little bit there, which is brilliant, because when I play a piece of music, obviously you do your vocals and then you get a gap, say you want to do a guitar solo. Well, I press it on loop there, it'll just keep playing round and round, just that little piece of music, and I can just jam my guitar solo over that until I find what I like, and then and I've got something that I'm going to try and record. So that's brilliant. And what you have to do to set it is, if I bring it back, is it playing? Now that little green line, the little bright green line, that's where we're up to now. But if I press repeat down here, it will jump to the in part there, and now it will just keep going round, as I say, and then when it hits the out one, it'll jump back to there. But if I wanted to change, I'll stop it there. But if I wanted to change it now and just make it repeat between this spot here and that spot there, and that was the part I needed. Right, I'll move it back just a little bit. Right, so say if I wanted to jump forward a little bit, not as close, I mean, it would work. What you need to do is, you've got the mark set here, so you need to press that and then press the in, because we're changing the in position, and when I press it, it doesn't always work. Oh, I tell you what, it is not working, because that repeats on, and when that repeats on, these won't work. Take the repeat off, and now hold that down, hold your mark down, and then press your in. Oh, there, it's jumped. Say it doesn't always work that easily. So it's jumped now. So now the position has moved. So I'll do it again. If I move it to here, and I think that's where I want my in, I press my in. It's jumped it easier this time. That's it. So now it would loop around them 2 points, and it's exactly the same for the out. You'd press to set the mark, but now you would press your out. Yeah. So and that all that would do would be then, if I now thought, right, I want to loop between them two little pieces there, press the mark set and the out's jump to there. And like I said, that is a really handy part when you just want, you know, it's just to loop around, because it's really annoying to keep thinking, oh, I want to go back to that bit, I want to go back to rehearse a part before you record it. That is really, really handy. I mean, the metronome I never use. Say that undo is really handy. The bounce I could show you, but I won't at the moment. But say I don't use it anymore really. I just find it doesn't mix down that well. But the edit track is really, really handy. The mute, as I say, that there for mute, and when that's off you can press then record, and then the record, but when it's on the mute then it would mute that track. So that one's important. And say this edit track, because that will bring up your menu for whatever you're on for that track. So come out of that. Now if we go to menu and go to songs, so you're pressing this one here for songs, and we've got this song here which hasn't got a name. So if we reel down to that, yeah, and if you just press on this one here, it will give you some options for that song that you want to do. So you want to load it, create, save, erase, copy, delete, unuse, project, or edit name. And when you come to the edit name, if you press this, and then it'll give you a choice. And again, it's just your wheel, and moving along as you go along. Yeah, and you know, whatever you want to call your song, whatever song is your name. And it is really handy to do, especially once you get a few things, because no, press no. It is handy. I haven't changed the name of that because there's nothing on there, but so you know, like I say, I know that's Old Lang Syne, I know that was Poison Melody, and I know that's You Know, which I haven't started yet, but so them thing. So remember that top one there is to assign your tracks. It does say assign when you're picking out the track there. The mixer one down there, the effects ones I don't use. The menu, that's where you can choose your songs, format your disc, and like I say, when you just formatting it, you just press it and it just does it. You don't have to do anything. You can, depending on the size of the disc, depends how long it takes. And let's say the guitar tuner as well, just press guitar tuner, you've got that. I don't even think I've ever looked in preferences, to be honest with you. But I do find they're the main things I use to make this desk work, and it does work well. The only other thing is, you know, to put it back in, how I then put the music back in, and how I actually take it off here and put it into my. I use an iPad, and I had real problems with that, so I will have to do a video on how to get this off and then back on to here. But I hope you find this really helpful.